Hello, welcome to an episode of Bob's Bus Rescue. Let's see what we can break today. Morning everybody, welcome to another episode of Bob's Bus Rescue. This is episode 4, I do believe. So let's get cracking. We've had a lot of work going on recently with the rear quarter, and we've just been rebuilding what's going on around that area. So I'm going to carry on doing that now. I'm going to weld it all ends. First of all, I've got to clean the paint off some of those parts that we've got, and then I'm going to start welding in that rear valance. And then having a look at what I'm going to do with the tubular section that goes down around there. So this tubular section, how to get that in, because I have actually jacked that into place now. I found that it's not the greatest of news, because when the bus released the tension of the whole fabrication of the bus, it dropped 1 millimetre to 2 millimetres when I cut it. And I found that I can't actually jack it back into place. Funny idea, I may never be able to get that back to where it was. It is 1 millimetre. I'm going to put the valance in, and then I'm going to put the actual rear outer piece on, put the engine door on, see how it all matches up, make sure I've got nothing odd going on. As long as everything looks square, I think we'll just have to let the millimetre go, if I'm honest. So I've got this part now. I've got the paint stripped off so that we can work around with the weld. We will need to be changing the weld wire from running on 0.8 at the moment, because we're doing chassis welding with that 2 millimetre chassis section. So because I'm now on body work thickness 18 gauge, could do with being on 0.6 millimetre. You've got to remember to turn this roller around, because that one's for 0.8 mil wire, that one's for 0.6, so to make sure they get turned around, because I sometimes forget, and that's a bit of a nightmare when you do that. Put that down there, that goes across there, and then we just nip that up. It's probably about right there. We'll see in a second when we powered it. So it seems to be running it through okay. You heard the gas releasing just then. The wire should appear in a moment. Quite a long torch wire this. Hey! It takes a while. Put that off. Right, that's ready now with 0.6 millimetre wire. Just take a closer look. So here you go, we've got the steel here. This is where I've been jacking up the frame here to see if, when the chassis dropped by that 2 millimetres, see if I could take that back out. But it's not going anywhere, it's rock solid. So it's a whole big box section anyway. I don't think I'm going to get this to move at all. So my realisation is that I probably should have put some sort of strap across. But it's moved now, so I'm just going to cope with what we've got. So I'll start to work in the valance now. Weld that in, get the valance welded in. I found these very useful, small magnets. A few £1 on Amazon. Yeah, they're very good though for. I don't think I am going to use these. I think I'm going to edit this whole part out and just use clamps. Cup of tea. These stay warm mugs are great. So many cups of tea have I thrown away over the years, but now no more, especially in the workshop. It's great. Put that out of the way. Right. So I think we need to take a bit off here from that fit. Right, I've got that clamped in place now, so I'm now just I'll just tack that in. It'll hold itself in place then. So a couple of tacks and then I can always take them off if it's not quite right. So I'm only going to be tacking in, so I'm not going to bother with my welding mask. You should always wear a welding mask these days though. You may or may not be aware if you're doing welding in your workshop at home, but the Health and Safety Executive in the UK declared back in about 2018 that welding fumes do cause cancer. Yeah, so I've got the tacked in place now. Do need a tack there, a bit further on, just dropping slightly. Right, I'm just going to go ahead and weld this in now. I'm going to wear a mask for doing this because of welding fumes, because I'll be at it a while. This part is actually 2mm. It was me thinking it was 1 or 18 gauge, but it's actually 2mm. So I've upped the ampage. I'll leave it on the 0.6mm well where it'll be okay. That's not too bad. So I'm not going to weld down here because I'm going to cut across from there, put the new piece of valance in, but I have welded along here. So there's still a bit of heat in here. But what I was trying to do, it's not so much of a bodywork weld because it's 2mm. It's more of a, I could actually stretch some of the welds out and get decent penetration because it is the rear valance after all. So you can see we've got some decent penetration. I'm going to have to weld there at the back though as well. I might run it in. I'll do some stitch welds on it rather than spotting it in. greatest welding, but I'm starting to remember how to do it. I used to be quite good. I'm starting to get better towards the end though. So. Right, so I've got the plug welds in there as well. I'll ground all this back so you won't even know it was there. And then I will then start to cut out this piece here where I'm going to swap this bottom part out. We'll do this first, and then we'll grind that out there as well. Got a couple of spots to put in the end there, which I never put holes in for, but actually really annoying I forgot to do. I can weld that up there. Nobody sees this, it all gets hidden behind here. It's coming on. Right, so I've got that bit of welding done. Cup of tea. Oh, and it's still warm. Grind that out now, and then I'll show you what I've done. Right, hello everybody. Oh, can hear the rain outside. It's great in the UK. Great British weather. I've got the valance panel in there. That seems to fit roughly okay. Got this piece in here. So that is actually, I still need to take a bit more material off that. Now I've got everything welded up. I think this piece I've welded in here has pulled up slightly. So it's moved up slightly. When I say slightly, I mean 1 millimetre, something like that, maybe 2. But it's caused a bit of warp, which moved up. So I need to trim more off this now. Now this also doesn't quite fit. And obviously I need to take that back off to be able to get that in there. So it doesn't quite fit in the way it did previously. So I'll trim that a bit as well. And then that should get us to the point where we can actually weld those in. Let's move on. I've just realised that I was going to grind all this away, but I'm going to cover it with a valance. I don't actually need to, so it's a decent weld, so I'm going to leave it as it is. I have to grind it down on the other side because that's visible, so, but that isn't, so I'm not going to bother. So there we go. Just going to tack this in a few places, just to hold it in place as I bend it around. Let's hold that in place there. I love it when a plan starts to come together, as somebody once famously said. I've got that tacked in place in a few places around the back here, but as usual I've forgotten to do something. I forgot to put the holes in there for the plug welds to the equivalent of spot welds. I can just, but I can't really go from above because I won't get drill access. I could use my spot weld driller from underneath. That would work. So I will work that out tomorrow. It's gone 5 o'clock now, I'm getting tired. Time to pack in, start to make mistakes. People knocking on the door, so I've got to go. So that's the end of another day.